Well, a battle is being waged in Washington state over dairy production. Thousands are voicing their opinions, hoping their representatives take notice. KAPP-KVEW's Galen Ettlin joins us live now with a special investigation, the cash cow catch-22. Galen?
Right now, Washington state is considering an updated plan to regulate dairy farm operation and pollution. Dairy farmers worry this could ruin their livelihood, while neighbors warn the mess being left behind is poisoning them and everyone else downstream.
If you can see right through there the dust that's being thrown up because of the composting.
Kathleen Rogers says you never get used to it.
That's manure that's being composted.
Tons of it. Being churned across the road from her Grandview home of 35 years.
Now the wind is in our favor today. It would be in your teeth. It would be in your eyes. It would be in your mouth.
But in her years living next to a dairy farm, she says practices have improved. In the past, waste left in wet piles, now composted, but still with a cost.
And each one of those little cows is a big pooper. There's a lot of poop to deal with, a lot of flies, a lot of odor.
Turns out local dairy farms maybe not as black and white as you once thought. There's hundreds of moving parts that go into that final grocery store product that you pick up off the shelves, and that's why they tell me it's so important for us to all understand what goes into regulation behind the scenes.
40 minutes up the road near Moxie.
If you put your finger in there, they'll suck.
Tom DeVries is no stranger to cows. He grew up on a dairy farm and has operated this one, the DeVries family farm in Yakima County, since 2001. And talk about an operation. 42 full-time staff, nearly 5,000 cows, and 35,000 gallons of milk shipped out every day.
Twice a day these animals come in. It takes about 10 hours to milk them.
But of course,
if you want to stop and jump out, you're more than welcome to.
There's the unavoidable manure.
A clay liner. All the runoff is contained to a collection pit and is contained into our lagoon system, our manure storage.
The concern is nitrates from chemicals like ammonia in the manure and urine. At DeVries Farm, it all seeps to a low point underground and is pumped through several machines to separate liquids from solids. The solid becomes compost, used to fertilize crops that feed the cows.
It all kind of ties in together in the circle of life, so to speak.
The excess is sold. According to the State Dairy Federation, 60 to 70% is exported as natural fertilizer. Environmental groups are happy waste is composted, but say locally processed manure leads to damaging liquid runoff and outgassing, comparing it to an ammonia truck crash on I-90 near Cle Elum back in August.
1,000 cows would come pretty close to emitting the same amount of ammonia that was emitted on the interstate and closed down the interstate. And this happens every day in the lower Yakima Valley, where there are approximately 110,000 milk cows.
Jean Mendoza is executive director with the Friends of Toppenish Creek. She dedicates her time advocating for cleaner ag practices. She says federal and state research has found elevated nitrates in the groundwater near several big dairies, and that ammonia gas emissions in the Yakima Valley are estimated at about 60 million pounds in just a year. Mendoza says part of the problem is enforcement of manure management plans.
The Dairy Nutrient Management Program has no ability to enforce the laws to prevent people from polluting. So a plan says on paper, we will do this and this and this. There is absolutely no requirement for the dairies to actually follow through with what they say they will do.
But the Washington Department of Ecology is pushing to update its permit system for concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. The new proposal would require several hundred more dairies to opt in for requirements. They would have to comply with a 35 to 100 foot buffer between lands with manure and waterways. This would force some dairies to change land use practices they've cultivated for decades. The Department of Ecology says requirements not only protect the environment, but highlight which dairies are in good standing. But the biggest buzz on both sides is a requirement for pollution prevention plans at individual dairies to be made public.
And that's a big concern. We don't mind people getting the information from the agency that regulates us. You know, that's part of the open government. But it could be a significant cost.
But just how much? The Department of Ecology is now reviewing 4,500 comments for its new CAFO permit draft and says cost to the dairies is on its radar. In 2011 alone, Washington State's dairy industry generated at least $5.2 billion, accounting for more than 18,000 jobs. But due to low growth in milk prices, the number of dairies is decreasing, dropping by more than 80% in 30 years, from 3,000 dairies in 1990 to fewer than 500 in 2016. And dairy advocates say adding new policy could put a dent in one of Washington's biggest cash cows.
We're hurting their ability to grow their business, but also the ability for them to get the food to your table, to get that milk into your cup at your breakfast.
But Mendoza understands, saying many in her group actually grew up on farms and that regulation can keep everyone happy.
The Yakima Valley is heaven, and we hope to maintain that situation, that environment, for our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Getting bothered by flies?
Back in Grandview, Kathleen Rogers laughs through challenges, now serving as community awareness.
Maybe there's going to be some help. Maybe there'll be some compassion, and maybe they won't allow a big CAFO to come into your area in the Tri-Cities.
A community
I want to protect my little valley. This is our home.
that remains on the fence.
Kathleen Rogers says she hopes to have air sensors put in soon that can detect those chemicals in and around her neighborhood. As for water quality, though, the Department of Ecology expects to make its draft permit official by the end of this year. We should also note that while nitrate pollution is concerning, experts are still working to figure out exactly how it impacts public health in the long run.